Brave Story movie review. So this is a Japanese anime film. Although it's not actually Warner Brothers is involved in it somehow. I think Warner Brothers is involved with the distribution. But essentially it's a Japanese anime film. It's based on a Japanese novel of the same name, which I've not read, but I have seen the movie. The basic plot of the movie is a familiar one. A 5th grade boy, suffering from problems at home and being bullied at school, suddenly goes into a fantasy world where he becomes a hero, makes many new wonderful friends, and ends up saving the whole world. Now, this story has been done before, and in fact, to a greater or lesser degree, the same idea is present in The Never-Ending Story, The Last Action Hero, Labyrinth, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, etc., etc., etc. Despite being pure childhood wish fulfillment, these movies can, at their best, be a great showcase for the imagination and show a strange land filled with many wonderful and strange and interesting creatures. And this movie does that, but there's also a line these stories have to walk. If they get too strange or too random, then it's a little bit hard to get absorbed in the story. The plot of this movie is fairly linear, but at times I think it crosses the line. My main complaint is that it is never clear what powers a lot of these characters have. And they just seem to manifest new powers as they need to get out of whatever tight spot they happen to be in at the time. There are also numerous questions and plot points that are never fully explained. Now, I'm not going to make a list of them here. It wouldn't be of interest to anyone who hasn't seen the movie. But if you do end up watching this movie at some point, just try making a list of every question you have that is never fully answered. I don't know. Maybe some of these questions would have been answered in the book. Again, I haven't read the book. Another complaint is that there are also a few scenes that start or end rather abruptly, giving the impression that this movie was brutally cut in the editing room. Actually, I say that, but I should correct myself here because animated films don't usually get edited, is my understanding. I'm not involved in film, but just kind of based on my understanding. Just because animation is so expensive that you would seldom animate a full sequence and then cut it. So I don't know what happened, but it's a bit abrupt at any rate. And yet, despite the fact that I feel like some scenes were too short and abrupt and I didn't fully understand them, and would have liked kind of more explanation for some of these scenes, I also felt that this film was too long to sit through as it was. The last half hour or so, I was really getting antsy. So I know that's a contradiction. On one hand, I'm saying this film should have been longer, it wasn't explained enough. And on the other hand, I'm saying it's too long, I found it hard to sit through. But it's one of those movies. It feels both too long and not long enough at the same time. Part of the problem is that it gets a little bit preachy near the end. I think a lot of anime movies tend to do this, if I could generalize. And that those kind of preachiness scenes take up a lot of dead time. Also, I didn't think they were saying anything all that profound for all the talking. And again, if I'm going to generalize, this is a criticism I have of a lot of anime. There are a lot of speeches, but it's just kind of very elementary things on morality. Like, you can't be too selfish. You can't sacrifice everyone else for your own happiness. But then again, this film is aimed at children. So maybe I shouldn't be too critical.